I am sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. For those of you who are watching on the YouTube side, please be patient with me here. I am having some technical difficulties on my Facebook stream. So I apologize for that. So just give me a couple of moments. I am not going live yet, but so I'm going to have to do something different. So just give me a couple of more minutes, and I hope to be able to go live with you here in just a moment. So please give me a few moments. Okay. Okay. Welcome. I apologize for that delay there. We were having once again, having a few technical difficulties. Seems like I do that a lot lately. But again, just want to thank those of you who are joining us for Real Life Matters. Again, this is welcome to Real Life Matters, where we seek to to look at real life problems, real life issues, and see if we can come up with some real life solutions. We do that by taking the message of heaven, the message of the scriptures, and then seeing if we can translate that into the message of earth. My name is Jason Perry, and I am your host and translator for Real Life Matters, and I am so appreciative of you taking some of your precious time to spend it here with me. I say hello to those of you who I see who have joined. Carolyn and Nate and Cheryl, good to see you all. I ask that you would please consider sharing this video, this live feed on your networks, to let some other people know that we're doing this and that you think that it's something worth listening to. I would appreciate that. So thank you very much for doing that. Again, so tonight, the topic we're going to be looking at tonight is really kind of a follow-up from what we talked about last week. So last week we looked at the question of I had my guest on, Mr. Colton Harris, and we asked the question, what if God is real? What if God is real? So at its core, this question has to do with our existence. It seeks to answer questions like, is there a creator? Is there intelligent design? What on earth am I here for? Do we have any real significance? That's really what that question is doing. And hello there, Beverly Simmons. It's good to see you. Thanks for choosing to spend some time with us here today. So that's really what this question of what if God is real, that's what that question deals with. But here's if God doesn't exist, then none of those questions really matter, because we don't matter. If God doesn't exist, none of those questions matter, because we don't matter. It means if God doesn't exist, then we are just simply products of the randomness of the universe. There's no point to our lives on the planet. There's no right, there is no wrong. We live, we die, we don't exist anymore. So what's the point? So when we look at this question of what if God is real, it's important because it gets at this issue of purpose and and issues of our identity and why on earth are we here. So that is important. But that's a very important, obviously, very important question that needs to be answered. Hello there, Eric. Thank you for joining, and the Glens and Kathy. Praying for you, Kathy, by the way. So thank you for joining again. But that's the question that we're looking at, and that question is very important. But because if we don't know that God is real, then it's very easy for us to just simply say life doesn't matter, nothing really matters. Quite frankly, life sucks. If God isn't real, then what in the world are we here for? But it is not my purpose, nor is it possible in the scope of this show to answer all those questions. What I want to do is to stir up your mind to the possibility that life is more than what we might think. And additionally, I want to challenge you to take a deeper look into those questions for yourselves. And so with that in mind, I did, what's his name? Colton shared this video with me last week after our show last week. And so if you get a chance, take a look at this video. And I think it gives some pretty interesting arguments about pretty interesting discussion around this idea is there real meaning to life? And so take a look at that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but I thought it did a good job of addressing some important questions in a very simple way. But tonight I want to take that question about the realness of God, and I want to look at it at an even deeper level. And I want to ask the question, not just what if God is real, but I want to look at this question of what if Jesus is real? Okay. Oh shoot, no, that's not. Okay, yeah, there you go. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. I almost ended my live video. What if Jesus is real is the question I want to look at tonight. And so in chapter 8 of Mark's gospel, Mark tells of a conversation that Jesus had with his disciples as he walked along the road with them. As they were just going about their daily business, he had this conversation. Jesus was a master at asking penetrating questions that cut right through all of our walls, all of the layers, all of our perpetrating, all of that stuff. He would ask these questions that just got right to the heart of the matter. So listen to what Jesus said. This is Mark chapter 8, verses 27 through 28. Mark chapter 8, verses 27 through 38. So I'll put it right there for you. There you go. So Jesus asked this question as he was walking along with his disciples. He says, Jesus and his disciples left Galilee and went up to the villages near Caesarea Philippi. As they were walking along, he asked them, "Who do people say that I am? Who do people say that I am?" "Well," they replied, "some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, others say that you are one of the prophets." And so if we just stop right there, it's almost like Jesus is doing one of these, what's the word on the street? You've seen those videos where somebody gets a camera, goes out on the street and asks people, these random people, this question, and they give their response. As I was preparing for the show tonight, I looked at a video like that where somebody went on the street and they asked people, well, who is Jesus? And people gave these random answers about their philosophies about who Jesus is. Well, it's the same thing here. Jesus has asked them, take your cameras, go out on the street, get your microphones and ask people, who do you think this Jesus guy is? Okay? But then he took it to a different level. And then he asked them the question, okay, that's fine. That's what other people say. But who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? This is a really powerful exchange between Jesus and his followers. You see, he was challenging them to take a stand as to what they thought about him. See, there was a buzz around town about him. In the verses earlier in this chapter, if you go back to take your Bible and read earlier in the chapter, the first 26 verses of this chapter, you see that, one, he had just fed 4,000 people. 4,000 men plus the men and women, the women and children with them, with a few loaves of bread and some small fish. And they had not only fed all of those people, but there were 12 baskets of food left over. Then he left that, and then he went to a blind man who couldn't see, and he said he created some mud and he put it on the man's eyes, and the man couldn't see clearly. And then Jesus said, "What do you see?" So I see, but I see kind of like shadows. I don't see clearly. And then Jesus did it again, and the man began to see clearly. Really, what Jesus was doing with the disciples was showing them, I'm showing you things, but you're not seeing them clearly. You don't have a full understanding, because Jesus kept teaching them things, but they weren't getting it. It was going right over their heads. And so Jesus used this opportunity to heal the blind man, to give a object lesson, to say, this is how you all are. You're blind. I'm teaching you things, but you're still missing it. And so now he gives them the opportunity to say, okay, we've been hearing what other people are saying about you, but what do you think? What do you think? Who is this? The people on the street was trying to figure out, wait a minute, isn't this Mary's boy? This is the town's carpenter. This guy's been walking around here preaching, and he's doing some amazing stuff, but who is he? Where has he come from? There's a lot of speculation. And so what Jesus challenged these men to do was to move away from just simply the philosophical speculation. Some people say that he's John the Baptist. Well, maybe he's just a zealous preacher. Some of people say that Jesus, well, you are Elijah, and you're this great prophet. That's what some people say. And some people say that you're one of the other prophets. You've come back to life. But Jesus says, but what about you? What do you think? Who do you say that I am? Get this, based upon what you have learned from my teaching, you have been sitting under my teaching, you have been listening to my word, you have been with me, you have seen my actions, you have seen the things that I've done, you've seen my power, you've seen the miracles, you've seen water turn to wine, you've seen blind people be able to see, you've seen the deaf people be able to hear, and the lame people walk, dead people live again. You've seen me feed 10,000 people with a couple of biscuits and some sardines. Who do you say that I am, based upon all of that? And not only that, you have observed my character as you have lived with me, walked with me, talked with me 24/7, 365. You have seen my life. You have walked with me. Question, who do you say that I am? I think that that's a powerful question. Who do you say that I am? And so when you look at this, this is why this is so important. One thing that I want you to get is this, is that Jesus invites examination. Jesus invites examination. He's not afraid of it. He invites us to evaluate his teaching. He invites us to look at his word. And Jesus says, I ain't scared. Go ahead, read it, tear it apart. See what you find in there that is not good. Tell me what's not good. He invites us to question his power. He invites us to question his miracles. He invites us to look at his power and say, what's wrong with that? He invites us to inspect his life and his character with a fine-tooth comb. Go through it, tear it apart, pick it apart. He says, examine me, test me, see if I am not who I say I am. Jesus is not afraid of examinations. There's a couple of things that I want to say about this idea of Jesus not being afraid of examination. One, Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your mind, and all of your strength. It is okay. God does not expect us to have this blind faith that makes no common sense. Jesus says, search me, search the scriptures, search my life, look at me. What is it about me that you want to know? Look, tear it apart. And he says, I'm not worried about you going through my life because I'm not worried about what you'll find. As I was preparing this, one of the questions that came to my mind, and I found interesting, and I'm not really sure. I think I do know what the answer is, but this is a question that I have. I find it so interesting how people get so bent out of shape about Jesus. You know, we can talk about a lot of things. We can talk about God, a higher power. We can talk about the Great Spirit, the man upstairs. We can talk about all of these things and all of these gods. But when it comes to Jesus, all of a sudden people can get not just mad, not just, well, I don't believe in him, but they're mad because you do. That's I always find that interesting. If, for instance, people will say, well, Christianity is a crutch for weak-minded people. Well, I am weak. I'm not strong. I do need help. All of us need help. But if I need it, why are you mad because I'm leaning on Jesus? Why are you mad about that? But there is something about the reality of Jesus, something about his presence that goes far deeper than just simply saying, is God real? Is there a higher being? And most of us won't argue that there's some higher being. But if we do, very often, in the argument that people give for saying there is no higher being comes down to this issue. If there's a higher being, then that higher being might hold me accountable for what I do. And so I need to get rid of that idea of somebody above me so that there is no level of accountability for me, that I can say I am the master of my own ship. Well, if you want to do that, that's fine. But you can't get away with just dismissing Jesus, because Jesus is a historical figure. We can go and look at Jesus, and the historians prove that he was a historical figure who lived on the face of the earth. There is historical evidence of his life, his death, and his resurrection. And so therefore, Jesus says, go ahead, hit me with your best shot, examine me. But this is the difference. Jesus also says, it's not enough for you just to examine me. He says, I also want you to do something else. Jesus also demands a decision. See, you can't stay on the fence. You can stay on the fence with God and higher being, but Jesus is more than just simply some kind of an existential thought that we are debating. We're talking about real person, and therefore Jesus says you can't stay on the fence when it comes to me. You see, the presence of Jesus as God in the flesh moves the argument from the philosophical realm of the existence of God to the personal realm of a response to a person. Let me say that again. The presence of Jesus as God in the flesh moves the argument from the philosophical realm of the existence of God to the personal realm of response to a person. This is critical. This is critical for us to understand, because now it's just there's a higher power. There's somebody up there who's bigger than us. No, now there is this person right in front of you. You know what it's like? This thought just kind of came to me. It's kind of like the difference between seeing a person on one of those telemarketer on the phone, where that person is on the phone and they're just a voice, and you simply say, it's so easy to hang up on a person, a telemarketer. It's much more difficult to slam the door in the face of a person who is standing at your front door. That's why they want to come to your door and get you talking, because it's very difficult to say no to them. It's easy to hang up a person on the phone. It is easy to hang up on God as this existent superpower. It's one thing to hang up on him. It's wholly another to hang up on the one who stands in front of you and say, do you want to be made whole? I am real. What will you do to me? You see, that's what's so important about it, is that Jesus is saying, I need you all to make a decision. You're not going to get away with saying something philosophical. You need to make a decision. What will you do with me? You see, Jesus, some people thought of Jesus as this zealous preacher. They saw him as an amazing teacher. They saw him as a prophet, as a powerful prophet. But the life and the teaching and the ministry of Jesus pointed to him being something far more than that. Okay? Something far more than that. So I just want to share a few claims. Think about some of the claims that Jesus made. One, he claimed to be God, right? He didn't just say, oh, I'm just a good guy. No, Jesus said, I am God. He says, I am able to forgive sins. And who else can forgive sins other than me? He says, before Abraham was, I am. Other words, he says, I am. It's not just that I might be, I'm going to come. He says, I am self-existent. He used this term, I am, because that is the term that God himself used to say, this is who I am. I am. And so Jesus understood himself to be God. And so that is an important thing that we need to understand about him. He claimed to be God. Here's the second thing about him. He claimed to be the source of life. He said, I am the bread of life. He says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry. He who believes in me will never be thirsty. He says, I am the source of life itself. That's a pretty bold claim. Here's another claim that he made. He claimed to be the source of all spiritual light. He said, you know what? I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Here's another claim that he makes. He says, I claim to be the only way to God. This is a claim that he made. I am the only way to God. He said, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. He will come in and go out and find pasture. In John 14, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now, think about these claims. He claimed to be God. He claimed to be the source of life. He claimed to be the source of all spiritual life. He claimed to be the only way to God, and many other claims that I can do. I just gave you 4 right there. If Jesus was a zealous teacher, if Jesus was just an amazing preacher, if Jesus was just a powerful prophet, then, and look at these, but yet he is claiming to be God, to be the one who would give his life for people. If he's claiming to be the source of life and the source of all spiritual light, and claiming to be the only way to God, then in the words of C.S. Lewis, he is a lunatic and he is a liar. Because only a lunatic would claim those things that he's claiming without, and they're not being true. A lunatic, he has some delusions of grandeur. He has some psychotic tendencies because he's claiming to be God when he's not. He's willing to die for something that is not true. If he is willing to die for something that is not true, if he is saying, I am God, and he is not, he says, I am the one who gives life, but he cannot. He says, I am the one who brings spiritual light, but he cannot do it. He claims to be the only one, the way to God, but he is not. He claims to be the Son of God, but he is not. That is the words of a raving lunatic, or a person at very best who is a liar. And if that is the case, he is not he is a zealous preacher, but he is not an amazing teacher. He is not a powerful prophet. He is a liar. He is a heretic. And why should you and why would anybody want to follow him? But if he is who he says he is, if he's telling the truth, if he really is the source of life, if he really is God, if he really is the source of all spiritual light, if Jesus really is the only way to God, if Jesus is real, it has great implications for us. If he's real, then we need to follow him. We need to pay attention to what he's saying. If he's a lunatic and a liar, we dismiss him. But if he's real, we need to say, wait a minute, I better pay attention to this dude. If he's real, then he really is the only one that can satisfy, he satisfies our deepest longings. If he's real, then he is the light that shines on the path, of righteousness to show us how to get back to God. If he's real, then he is the door to the people, into the door for people to reach God. If he's real, then he is a good shepherd who cares for the people of God. If he is real, then he is our hope for resurrection. If not, if Jesus died and did not rise again, then there is no hope for us. We die and poof, we're gone. But if Jesus really did rise again and therefore he has the power to do that, then I think I want to listen to a person who has that kind of power. If he really did do what he said he could do, if he was able to fulfill all of those promises and all of that power that he claimed to have, if that was real, then he is the only way to God. If he is real, then he's the vine that allows us to be connected and have relationship with God, and we can have experience with God. If he's real, then he can give us love and joy and peace. You see, we cannot just stay on the fence. The issue does not come down to, you all, whether or not we just simply believe in the existence of a God. It is a bigger picture than that. God says, I am going to force you. Yes, I want you to examine. I'm going to end with these words. Jesus invites us to examine his life. He is not afraid of it. He invites us to evaluate his teaching. He invites us to question his miracles. He invites us to inspect his life and his character. He invites us to do it. But he says that once you have found that, once you have examined him, now make a decision. Who do you say I am? Who do you say that I am? I would challenge you, those of you, if you are listening here tonight and you are already a follower of Christ, what I want to challenge you to do is to go do a deeper dive into the scriptures, a deeper dive into study and to see who is God and what did he promise and what does he give us? What evidence is there for the life of Christ? Do not just simply accept it because somebody told you, but recognize and strengthen your faith by studying. And I gave you all some resources last week. I'll go back and find those resources that I gave you last week, and I'll put them in the feed here today. I don't have them right in front of me, but I'll go back and take a look at some of those things and help you understand. So that you can have the resources that are necessary for you to find those answers that you may be looking for about whether or not God is real, whether or not Jesus is real. So I want you to be able to have those resources to be able to do it. I'm trying to find those while I'm talking to you right now, so I can put those back up. But if not, I'll put it up. I'm not finding it right now. I'll put it up and when I get done with the broadcast. But that's the first thing I want you to do. But if you are not a follower of Christ, if you're just watching this show, you're just watching this, listening to this teaching, and you are on the edge and you're not quite sure, again, I'm going to challenge you. Do some research. Don't just simply reject it because it doesn't make logical sense to you, just because it doesn't fit your emotions. I want to challenge you to go deeper and to really study this on your own. There's a song that I found. I'm going to put it in here too. I thought it was a phenomenal song. I listened to it yesterday. I'm going to put the link to this song. I don't own the rights to this song. I don't know anything about it. I heard it for the first time yesterday, and it dealt with this idea of the reality of Jesus, and it really blessed my heart. And so I'm going to put that on as another resource for you as well. But if you don't know Christ, if you don't have a relationship with him, don't just reject him out of hand. I challenge you to do some research. Find out, is this man really real? Because if he is real, then there's significant implications. If he is real and we reject him, there are significant implications for that. If he's just a lunatic and a liar, then all we've done is that we've done our due diligence. Study and see. But if Jesus is real, he gives life, he gives hope. And that is what I want you to hold on to. So again, thank you all so much. I'll stay on here for a few minutes. If you have some questions for me, as I like to say, if you have any agitations, inspirations, exclamations, irritations, cogitations, anything like that, I'd be glad to stay on the line here for a few minutes and to interact with you about any of those things. Please share this video. Give us some likes, some loves. I would appreciate it. Share the video on your networks if you think this is good. Know that it'll be posted on the Facebook page. Some of you, Colette, I see you just joined, and we're right at the end. But again, it'll be on the video on the my Facebook page for you to be able to look at this a little bit later. So again, thank you so much. Again, I'm gonna stay on the line for a few minutes. If you have any questions, comments for me, I'll stay on the line while I am looking for those resources that I told you about. I do want to be able to put them on the line for you. So thank you so much for spending a few moments with me here today. God bless you. And as you look for truth, I pray that you would find it. Amen. Amen.